Welcome to Storytime. I'm Kimberlyn. When you find yourself in need of inspiration or guided introspection, that's what I do. That's why I'm here. Whether it's related to your practice on the mat or out in the world, to me, it's all yoga. And by that, I mean it's all part of living and learning. In other words, we are not here to be perfect or to perform, but rather to practice. So let me be clear. I am not here because I have it all figured out. On the contrary, I'm here because I believe that no matter what we've accomplished, what we've endured, life is better when we come together authentically and compassionately to share our stories. Storytime is a virtual meeting space where we gather to connect. This journey of life is all about connection, and yoga is a practice of building and nurturing authentic connections. By sharing our stories, we share our hearts. We connect more deeply, more intimately with ourselves and each other. Yoga is a practice to get to know ourselves better. So whether it's live and in real time or anytime, on your time, we're here to be together. Welcome to Storytime. I am so glad that you are here. Now we're beginning a new myth and meeting some new characters this month. So before we get into the story, I want to explore some background details and provide some context and support for our listening. So first, what is the Ramayana? The Ramayana is one of the most revered and ancient epics of Indian literature. Composed by Sage Vishwamitra, it consists of approximately 2,400 verses called shlokas and is divided into 7 books called khandas. The narrative centers around the life of Lord Ram, also called Rama. Ram was a prince of Ayodhya, and with his wife Sita and his loyal brother Lakshmana, we learn of their adventures, their trials and tribulations, their triumphs, culminating in the rescue of Sita from the demon king Ravana. The Ramayana is deeply rooted in Hindu spirituality and is considered a sacred text, often recited during religious ceremonies and festivals. The epic has shaped Indian arts, dance, drama, and literature for centuries. It has inspired countless adaptations. The stories and lessons from the Ramayana serve as ethical and moral guidelines for millions of people in India and beyond. The Hindu people of India love to tell stories about the mythological heroes of ancient times. Lords Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, gods of creation, destruction, and preservation, respectively, are at the very heart of these stories, which cover thousands of years and many time cycles, known as yugas. Again and again in these ancient stories, the 3 principal deities of the Hindu religion come to earth as human beings for the purpose of restoring order and peace when trouble and strife have gotten out of control. Second question, who is Ram? So the hero of this ancient epic is named Ram or Rama. He is loved and respected in India to this day. Of all his heroic qualities of strength and bravery, stamina and duty, it is Ram's humility that most appeals to generations after generations. Despite his godly origins, when he is born on earth as a human, Prince Ram obeys the laws of nature and society, just like everyone else. Aware of his human limitations, Ram courts and gratefully and gracefully accepts help from all beings, gods and sages, plants and animals, rocks, and even the water of the ocean itself. In India, Ram is seen as the embodiment of truth and virtue, the highest of human values. He represents respect for parents and teachers, love for siblings and friends, and compassion for the weak and the downtrodden. He honors spoken word and promises, which makes him trustworthy and reliable. And his bravery in the face of danger makes him stand tall among people of all ages throughout the centuries as the ideal hero. And this is a story of one of Vishnu's many visits to Earth. The Ramayana describes Lord Vishnu's early life as Ram, the prince of Ayodhya, who vanquishes demon after demon at a time when the demons threatened to take over the earth. So, today's story, Chapter 1 of Ram, the Demon Slayer. At the southern tip of India, among the tall and mighty waves of the Indian Ocean, lay nestled the small island country of Lanka. This beautiful island was blessed with azure skies, green forest, and golden beaches. But Lanka's ruler was Ravana, a terrible demon with 10 hideous heads and a mean and greedy spirit. Even more hideous, he could sprout 20 arms whenever he wanted as well. He also happened to be the grandson of the mighty god of creation, Lord Brahma. Not content with his mighty powers, Ravana prayed to Rama, insisting, "Make me immortal. Let no god or demon, animal or plant harm me." Brahma raised his eyebrows and asked, "Well, what about humans?" Ravana raised a dozen fists and sneered, "They only have 2 arms, grandfather. I have no fear of them." So Brahma did as Ravana requested. Things on earth went from bad to worse, as Ravana and his fellow demons went on one rampage after another. Desperate cries for help could be heard from all corners of the earth. Finally, Brahma had had enough. He called on his fellow deity, Lord Vishnu, the god of preservation. Pointing down at Lanka, he said, "Since I granted Ravana eternal protection, there's nothing I can do to stop his cruelty." But he was arrogant enough to think he would be safe from all men. "If you go in human form, you will be able to destroy him once and for all." Vishnu readily agreed. He had already been born on earth many times to fight other demons and quite enjoyed life as a human. Of course, his wife, goddess Lakshmi, would be born on earth too. No matter where Lord Vishnu incarnated on earth, Lakshmi also found him, and they always got married to each other. Soon enough, Vishnu had picked out his new earthly family. The kingdom of Ayodhya was ruled by a wise and just king, Dasharatha, whose one deep regret had always been that he had no children. Following the advice of a holy sage, the king performed a sacred fire ceremony, praying to the gods with all his heart for children. And there, in the midst of the flames, a divine being appeared, offering Dasharatha a golden bowl filled with sweet rice pudding. "Take this gift from the gods and give it to your wives," the being said, "and your childless days will be over." The 3 queens ate every bite, and before long, all of them became mothers. For those of you who don't know, this is not how babies are born. Kausalya, the gentle, pious first queen, gave birth to Ram, the incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Kaikeya, the valiant second queen, who had once saved the king's life in battle, named her baby Bharat. He was the incarnation of Lord Vishnu's conch shell and represented the clear voice of truth. The youngest queen, Sumitra, gave birth to twins, Lakshman and Shatrughn. Lakshman was the incarnation of Lord Vishnu's serpent, the fierce and faithful Shisha, while Shatrughn was the incarnation of Lord Vishnu's powerful mace. With 4 babies to care for now, the new parents were happily occupied. Soon, the babies grew into lively, high-spirited little boys, and then into intelligent young men. The royal counselor, Sage Vishwamitra, was responsible for their education, and under his tutelage, they learned how to govern like kings, ready to accept any challenge. And this was a very good thing, for soon enough their skills would be put to the test. One afternoon, there came a desperate pounding at the palace door. It was Sage Vishwamitra. "We need help. Our forests are overrun with terrible demons," he cried. "Send Ram with me. He can get rid of them." Dasharatha was reluctant to let his sons go, but Ram accepted the challenge calmly, and he and Lakshman followed Sage Vishwamitra into the dense and dangerous wood. As they walked, the path grew darker, and the air grew cold and silent. Ram listened for signs of life, but there were none. "Oh, Sage, what has happened here?" he asked gravely. "You are in the land of the demon Tataka. She has stripped the forest of all living things. The rivers and streams have dried up. Now she eats anyone who passes by." Then the sage drew a quick, harsh breath. "Watch out," he hissed in warning. "Here she comes." They turned to see a huge, misshapen demon, her crooked fingers reaching out toward them, her dreadful snout hungrily sniffing the air. Quickly, Ram let fly an arrow straight to her heart. With a long howl, she fell across the path. A sigh of relief rose from the floor of the parched forest as the demon died. In the distance, a bird began to sing. "Well done," said the sage, breathing his own sigh of relief. "But beware," he continued. "There are other demons who use trickery and deceit. You will need sacred weapons." They found a quiet spot at the bank of a river. As the sage began reciting secret mantras, the sacred weapons appeared. Ram sat motionless. Gleaming swords and burnished shields, glistening arrows and spears, one by one, merged into his body. He was aglow with divine power. Suddenly, the sky turned ominously dark. The air filled with the sound of roaring thunder. This was no storm, however. It was 2 demons, Mariacha and Subahu. This monstrous pair was in the habit of taunting humans with all sorts of mischief. One of their favorite tricks was to grind up the remains of dead animals and pour the horrid stuff all over the people when they gathered to pray to the gods. "I'll take care of them," said Lakshman grimly, fitting a deadly arrow to his bow. But Ram put out his hand to stop him. "No, Lakshman," he said. "These demons are only causing mischief. The punishment must fit the crime." Ram let loose his own magic arrow, which snagged the 2 meddlesome creatures and carried them up through the air, over the mountaintops, right to the middle of the ocean. There, the arrow released and let them go. Splash! They fell into the water, spluttering in surprise, but unhurt. "Well done," said the sage again. Chapter 2, A Match Made in Heaven, Ram and Sita. On their way back to Ayodhya, Sage Vishwamitra said they would stop at the palace of King Yanak, ruler of Mithila. The sage told them Yanak's story as they walked along the winding trail through the forest. King Yanak, like Dasharatha, had longed for a child for many years. One day, around the same time that Ram and his brothers were born, the king found a golden pitcher buried in his garden. Lying inside was a beautiful baby girl. With heartfelt thanks to Mother Earth, he named the baby Sita and raised her as his own. Now, several years later, Lord Shiva paid Yanak a visit and gave the king his own bow and arrow. He told Yanak to keep it safe until Sita was old enough to marry. Let each suitor try his hand. Only Lord Vishnu can lift up this bow and break it in two. Vishnu and no other will marry your daughter. When Sage Vishwamitra and the princes entered King Yanak's court, they found him slumped over in despair. Will my daughter ever find a husband? The king groaned as a host of suitors staggered about, complaining and moaning about their unsuccessful attempts to lift the bow. Vishwamitra asked Ram to try. Ram approached and bowed humbly, first to the king, then to the sage, and finally to the sacred weapon. Then, with one easy and fluid motion, he picked up the bow, fitted an arrow, and pulled back the string. The arrow sped to the sky, and with a resounding crack, the bow snapped in two pieces. The other suitors stared in surprise. King Yanak was delighted and relieved. Sita, his daughter, blushed quietly with happiness as Ram smiled in her direction. Very well done, said the sage, clapping his hands. Amid pomp and gaiety, Sita and Ram were married. They made a splendid couple. After all, theirs was a match made in heaven. So, let's talk some takeaways, key themes of our Ramayana at this point in our story. Dharma, or righteousness in this case. The Ramayana explores the concept of duty and moral order, as Rama embodies the ideal of dharma through his actions and his decisions, his service. Secondly, there's a theme of triumph of good over evil. The epic underscores the ultimate victory of virtue and truth through Rama's defeat of the demons. So in conclusion, the Ramayana is not merely a historical or mythological tale, but a profound repository of wisdom, values, and practices that resonate deeply with Indian culture and the yogic tradition. Its teachings offer a timeless guide for spiritual growth, ethical living, and the pursuit of inner harmony, inviting each of us to do our dharma, our life's work. I share these stories to expand our minds and our hearts, to grow in authentic alignment, and to help us move freely through the tasks of each day and the seasons of life, to learn to know ourselves better. Every day is an invitation to begin again in greater intention and alignment. Every day is an opportunity to know ourselves better through practice and study. Connection is key to receiving and benefiting from that invitation. My invitation to you is just that. Let's connect. I want to hear from you. How are you? How are you living your yoga? When I hear from you, I use your questions and examples to expand and to personalize these messages so they support you in living well, authentically, and vibrantly. So, email me. Come on in to the studio or join our free app for tons of free content to support your inspired living. whether you visit us in person or online, whether it's for one-on-one or a group experience. We want to meet you in the practice. We want to support you in living your life's work. Let's close with a blessing. May you breathe deeply and move freely, labor lovingly, and live vibrantly. May you be well. Namaste. Thanks so much for being here. Take care of you and take care of each other. This is Yoga Living. Bye for now.